Okay, a few weeks back I did a two-part vlog about talking about brushes, and I think I don't remember if I talked about dry brushes. It seems like I've done a vlog that talked about dry brushes, and I also talked about it a little bit in that my favorite 7 things of 2021 that I did talking about dry brushes. Now, I've got 4 of them right here, and I've deliberately positioned them like this because right now you could probably guess which ones are the ones made for modeling and the ones that are just makeup brushes. That's probably pretty easy to figure out. I've got these, and when I do kind of just a feel test, now this one here, this one that's black, I've had this one a long time, and it's been used a lot. So it's taken a hammering. And then this one is fairly new, and it's still fairly soft, but from this direction it's got a good stiff feel. These got a good stiff feel. They're still fairly soft. These are some kind of natural fibers. These are some kind of synthetic fibers. Now, these two, Army Painter and Army Painter and Artist Opus. These are the commercial ones. These two are going to cost you some money. This one I got in a set for just a few bucks, or my wife got it for me up at Target. This one came from Target. It's a little more expensive. It was like $3, maybe $2 for a single one, but it's a little better quality. Now that I've used all of them, and I was glad to get some Artist Opus brushes. I mean, I like Artist Opus stuff. I was able to get some of their regular brushes. Their Series S, I got a couple of size 2s, and these are really good brushes. I mean, now, you know, if you say, well, are they 47% better than Winsor & Newton or Raphael or Da Vinci? No, they're not. I mean, it's one of those things that everybody's going to have a different preference. When you really are able to appreciate, as I learned, when you're starting to be able to appreciate better brushes like this and what they can do for you, then when you get to the point that you can start saying, well, I like the Winsor & Newton Series 7 over the Artist Opus, or the other way around, or whatever, that is such a personal preference there. It's like saying, well, you know, what soap do you prefer? Well, that, you know, I mean, if you're like me, you don't care. You know, the only reason I use soap is my wife makes me. But, you know, I could never say, oh, you need to get Winsor & Newton over Artist Opus. I can tell you that you're going to get better performance out of Winsor & Newton and Artist Opus than you will this synthetic AK Interactive brush, which is a good brush, you know. But anyway, these are really good, and I particularly like the Artist Opus. They have the feel is just slightly different than the Army Painter, but it's so doggone close to these makeup brushes. And I try to support our hobby when I can. I try to support other vendors, other creators, and things like that. I will probably be using, you know, if I'm going to mention, I'll probably be using some Artist Opus brushes, maybe the Army Painter, and mentioning them just for whatever help that can give them. Because I really do believe in supporting the hobby. But the truth of the matter is, in using all of these for a while now, both in actually building models and just saying, okay, I'm going to sit down with, you know, get a, this is not one I've used, but I've got it sitting here, so I'll grab it. Just getting a test figure, something like that, and priming it in black, and then dry brushing it with, you know, a light color, and just seeing how does it work? What happens if I push hard? What happens if I give it a light touch? How does it hold paint? How does it clean up? All of that stuff. These are nice to have, but what you pay for 2 or 3 Artis. Now, Artis Opus are fairly expensive compared to, say, Army Painter. But what you pay for, say, 2 or 3 Artis Opus brushes, you can get a lifetime supply of these. And this is pretty much my go-to dry brush if I'm just sitting here working. And this thing is pretty old and knackered, but it works so well. I like it. I'm comfortable with the feel of it. Now, I have not tried Rosemary & Co. They make a brush like this, but I've talked to a friend who has the Rosemary & Co. brush and the Army Painter brush and the Artis Opus brush, and he confirmed there's not really a discernible difference. Like I said, you can run your fingers along them. I can do it here, and I can tell a difference when I go from one to the other, but that difference I don't feel amounts to a hill of beans when it comes to the application. So if you've been thinking, gee, I want to get some of these kind of brushes to use, you're not going to get much difference in performance than if you just go with some kind of makeup brush like that. So just something to keep in mind. Now, if you like getting these, if you like supporting these companies, I mean, I was happy to buy a few of these. I know it supports the company. They were kind enough to do an interview with me. I got to talk to James Otero, who's one of the principals of the company. If you've not watched the Artis Opus videos, they really go into great detail about dry brushing and ways to just use that beyond just what most people think of it. So be sure and check them out. But yeah, I'm sold on these makeup brushes. That's really, in my mind, the ticket just from a cost standpoint. Now, speaking of Artis Opus, when I had watched them, they used a textured palette to wipe their paints off on. So that way, their theory of it is that, and I think it's sound, is that you're not taking the moisture off so much as you would with, say, a paper towel, the way I traditionally had done it. You're not taking the moisture off like you would with a paper towel, but you're taking excess paint off, but it's leaving the bristles moist, and that reduces the chalkiness. That's why they have their little dampening pad that you occasionally just touch your brush to this and just keep some moisture on it. And this does work. Now, a note, you can take a Gatorade cap and put a piece of foam in it, and it does the same thing. But these are useful. But I made my own out of this cutting board, and it works pretty good. And I put some little greeblies on here so that I could just test things out. I super glued them, and they're constantly coming loose, and that's becoming a little bit of a pain. But when I ordered the stuff from Artis Opus, I got one of their texture palettes. And I will say, now it's a luxury item, but this made a big difference in dry brushing over this. I guess because of the nature of the material and the type of material, it just really pulls the paint up, but you end up with some moisture still on the brush. This works really well. So if you're wanting to get something that's a little high end in terms of cost, this Artis Opus dry brush palette is really, it is good. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to look for whatever this material is. It's just some kind of wood, and I'm going to look for something that has this kind of texture to it, because if I can find a place to get a piece of wood like this, you see on this side it's just flat. There's nothing to it. I don't even know if the camera can focus on it. I'm gonna see if I can find something like that. But this dry brush palette from them is, I really like this. There's a noticeable difference over this, and I'm sold on this.